It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Tran has a question. He says, "Hi, Money Guy Show. You guys have mentioned it's good to have deep pockets before going into real estate investing. But how deep are we talking?
Oh.
In other words, how do I know when I can get into real estate investing in some capacity, according to the Money Guy's take?"
Yeah, so what he's referring to is we've talked about our journey into real estate and the real estate transactions that we've done in the past, and how one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that this is a more mature step in the financial order of operations. It's more of that step 7 type place when you start getting into this. Once you've
Step 8.
Step 7, step 8. Once you've kind of gotten into doing some of the other foundational basic life stuff that you've done. And so we tell people before you get into real estate, you want to make sure you're deep enough. And the question, how deep, Brian, I'll let you speak to that a touch, but I'm going to answer it very simply. Deep enough that if it goes absolutely wrong, it will not break you. That's how deep you ought to make sure you go.
Yeah, I look at when you get into real estate, it is more of an entrepreneurial thing. It's not going to be passive. The people on social media tell you it's passive. That's laughable to me because every real estate transaction I've had, you're doing something. You know, we've shared commercial. We're having to, line up the people to repair stuff, or even having to do stuff ourselves. When I was doing residential rental, like vacation property and stuff, you still have to deal with the management company and all the other things. It's not completely hands off. But the thing I want people to know when I say deep pockets, and Bo kind of alluded to this, is I want you to truly stress test this thing, run that business plan where you say the 3 scenarios I always talk about, where this is what I think will happen. This is, holy cow, was I wrong? This thing hasn't been rented out for a year and a half. I've still got the mortgage and all the debt and all the repairs. Because the worst thing that can happen with rental property, and a lot of people, because if you don't have deep pockets, you might be buying into property that is what I call low rent but easy access to. Meaning you can buy rental property that's dirt cheap, but you're not going to make a fortune on the rental income. But you're looking at it because it's easy to buy. You can go, the purchase price on this house is so low. You're like, what could go wrong? Well, what can go wrong is usually on those low purchase price houses that are in not the most desirable areas, they have a lot of transition because they deal with a lot of transient residents that will, unfortunately, come in, rip the cabinets off their hinges. They'll poke holes in your walls. You've heard me tell the story of changing engines in the living room. We've even had a listener who said he had a person who lived on the 2nd floor who was repairing motorcycles because he would actually
ride them up the stairs,
ride them up a 2x4 or a 4x4, whatever the heck it was, and then repair engines for a motorcycle on the 2nd floor of his condominium or whatever. So we've heard it all. And so I want to caution you to make sure you have enough to where you not only can carry the mortgage, the utilities, and the repairs, but also that you might have to rehab this thing every time you have a resident that moves out. And that what I have the memory of is that I worked with a very successful individual who had probably about 45 rental properties. And the 2009 through 11 period about broke them because they had a lot of transition with their residents. Because if you remember how the real estate market got crushed, especially in South Atlanta during that period, everybody who moved in was ripping out. He got a bad batch of bad renters because this was low purchase price, low rent, and these people were tearing his house up. And then, and he still has the bank asking for the money. And banks, all of a sudden, when they got squeezed, because remember, extroverts, market volatility, real estate values going down, and then jobless, people being out of jobs, all happened at the same time. And banks, guess what they do when things get scary? They start, I've even heard Dave Ramsey tell that story. If you haven't gone out to YouTube and listened to Dave talk about when he went broke the first time, you can still sense there's a lot of anger.
Pain in there.
Well, there's pain and anger because he felt like the banks changed the rules on him. The bank got in trouble, sold to another bank, and then they changed the rules because they looked at all their loans and they're like, which one of these do we think is risky? And I think Dave at the time was like 26. And they were like, you know what? what are we doing lending this much money to a 26-year-old? Let's make him show us he's got the resources to do it. And he couldn't do it. And that's the thing you will find. And that's why, our bankers, they come in, but they're nice to us, we're nice to them. But when they get scared, they're mean.
Yep.
That's one of the things you have to be because they're worried about their jobs, they're worried about who's on the books, and they probably have an overlord on them, whether it's the government or a bank that's taking them over, that's putting their thumb on them saying, you have to find some money for us right now. And you might be the person they look at and go, nope, that person, I think we locked down how they're paying back that loan, and your rules might change. Be careful, because I bet you didn't read every line on that closing statement. Because anybody who's been through a real estate closing, you're sitting there with the attorney, and he's like, "Yeah, sign this page here," and I'm like, "Ooh, what's that form doing?" Oh, that's just if in case there's a little minor mistake on here, we can make that change. Okay, that sounds weird. And sign this page here, because you'll sign your name 40 times. You didn't read all those things. I would challenge you to tell me that you read every page that you signed off on. So just be careful with real estate. Bo said it best. I kind of gave the long-winded experience share. I want you to model. When that thing is horrible, you've lost your job or your income's down 25%, your portfolio assets are down 25%, and then you have, if you bought 10 homes and 4 of your tenants have moved out and then decided they were going to really rub it to, because everybody thinks they're hurting the man by going and poking holes in the walls and ripping the doors off the cabinets. No, they're hurting you.
That's right.
And you're just like everybody else. That's the thing, is this thing has this whole, we always hear about trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics hurts the other side too, is because when they think that they're hurting the man by not paying their rent or ripping the doors off, they're actually hurting you because you took the risk on the investment. Be careful of those things, because that stuff can happen and it's so scary. I just want you to be on such solid ground. That's why I always say have deep pockets. Because the mutual fund, yes, it can lose value, like if you're buying index funds in the markets and stuff, but it's not like one day your mutual fund's going to, change an engine in the middle of the living room. You just don't have to worry about that stuff.
I wrote down a few questions that I would ask before I do it. What if it doesn't rent? What if it goes down in value and I have to sell it? What if major maintenance, a major critical system is necessary? And then what if I lose my job? If you can't model out a scenario where you can still float it with if those things happen, then I think I'd think twice before entering into it.